Right, I'm ready to go when you are, mate. You all right?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Hussain, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you.
No, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. First of all, before we start, I've got to make an apology if I've got a bit of a sweaty brow this evening. It is absolutely roasting over here in the UK at the moment. And I mean, I know you Americans have it a lot hotter than what we do, right? But it's 28 degrees over here at the moment, which is about 82.5 Celsius, well, Fahrenheit, sorry, which to you may be cold, but for us, it's freaking roasting.
Yeah, I think right now in North Carolina, I think it's 91.
91. Wow. Okay. I'll be quiet then.
And in Texas, it's about 98, 100.
I don't know how you guys cope. I really don't. Anyway, mate, I've been meaning to get hold of you for a while, to be honest with you. And we've got a mutual friend, Howard, and he's been telling me to get in contact with you for a long time. And I've been meaning to do it, but you beat me to it the other day. So like I was just saying to you, my podcast is a bit different. I don't go into do loads of research. I like to have a one-on-one chat like as if we met in the pub. I do it for a reason because I want to learn about you and you obviously want to learn about me. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Whereabouts you're from? Just tell us a little bit about yourself there, mate.
All right, sure. So first off, I'm a dad. Second off, I'm a retired public school teacher. My concentration was in elementary mathematics. I retired 2 years ago in September. So September 13th, that'll be 2 years of being 100% fully functioning as a businessman. I primarily make my money through real estate, through investments and different things I'm sure we'll get into. And last year during COVID, I wrote a book called Fear, Forget Everything and Reset. And that's what you see here.
Yeah.
And the latest activities, I've basically been diversifying funds into different investments, buying businesses, and working kind of like Shark Tank as an angel investor or as a venture capitalist, trying to help other young business people try to get into the different games that they're trying to play with my expertise.
That sounds awesome, man. That really, really does. I mean, I've been over the last year, I've paid off all my debts, and I'm trying to work out ways of investing money in stocks, in cryptocurrency. I've been trying to, think of my future. So it's going to be awesome chatting to you. First of all, before now you've introduced yourself and told my listener a little bit about yourself. I want to go a little bit further back to like when you grew up, when you was in school. What was you like as a guy in school? Tell us about your school life.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York in the 80s and the 90s. So in school, I was always in like a gifted and talented program, right? Like a high echelon level of education, but I was usually in trouble. Got a lot of detention, a lot of sarcasm, a lot of quips and that sort of thing. But I always performed well, always got pretty good grades. But I would never consider myself an academic. But I always like challenges and puzzles and that sort of thing. So I think that's why I gravitated towards math, because I really don't enjoy reading that much. I like research, but some people like to crack open a book. I like to solve problems.
Yeah.
So that's really who I was as a student.
So when you was that young lad, what did you want to be as a child? I mean, who were your role models? Who inspired you?
I would say if we're talking about like elementary and maybe secondary school, probably my big brother. Like he's 6 years my senior. So he was like the coolest person around. And in terms of like a vocation or a job or something like that, I never really thought about that. Even at an early age, kind of doing little things to make money here and there, which is natural to me. I should preface that by saying my father was a businessman. He was a martial arts instructor.
Oh,
And my mom was a teacher. So there were different things that he would put me in and put me around where I could turn over money or learn little pockets of business. So I always loved like selling baseball cards or comic books or that sort of thing. And, so I never really thought about what I would be, honestly. Nothing like that. Maybe sports, something like that. Maybe I wanted to be like Mike.
You said there that your dad was into martial arts. What sort of martial arts was he involved in?
Primarily ninjutsu, but he was highly decorated. He had several black belts in different practices.
Was that something that you was ever interested in?
I don't know if I was interested. I can tell you I was put in martial arts as early as 3.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We were doing performances and things like that as early as like 5, 6, 7. So I don't know if I ever was really given the choice, but I like the benefits of it. I like being able to know that I could defend myself, the discipline of it, and one of the things that I do now is like public speaking. So I have no fear to be in front of a crowd. I mean, I'm a guy this big in front of 1,000, 2,000 people performing on stage by myself. So there were a lot of benefits from it outside of just the discipline of martial arts.
Because I mean, I do taekwondo. I've been practicing taekwondo now for 4 years, and the last year, 2 years has been a struggle, right? And the tenets of taekwondo is courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. And I've kind of used a lot of those values in my life. Did you find that doing a martial art at that early age that it gave you some values in life from doing martial arts?
1,000%. And I think it built a lot of character. Just for example, like fear, which I mean, right? You sometimes you would do like kumite, and there might be somebody across from you that might be larger than you, or might have a reputation. You still got to get in the ring. And then there might be somebody who's smaller than you, or somebody that you could beat, and you have to be a good sportsman. So there's a lot of that. And also one of the things my father taught me in terms of martial arts is this isn't for offense, it's a defensive thing. I know I could hurt, X, Y, and Z, but my brothers and I, we would definitely get in trouble if we went to school and practiced techniques or did things like that. It was purely for defense. And his one thing he always stressed was that fighting has to always be the last option. So if there's an opportunity to walk away, you make sure you walk away, because if you get into a fight, it's to the end. And that's something that ninjutsu teaches. It's a very aggressive form. So we made sure that we did that all the time, basically. Like I always look to avoid a confrontation when necessary, or take the path to least resistance, even in business. So, but if I do need to be aggressive, it's not an issue.
Was you a kind of guy that fitted into your community when you was younger then? Did you have many friends, or was you, somebody that shied away from people? What sort of character was you?
Oh, always. I was always in groups, always played on like sports teams, was always a part of some sort of extracurricular. I would say I was popular. Like I had a lot of superlatives in high school, like, funniest, class clown, best dressed, that kind of thing, like prom king kind of guy. That's who I was in junior high school and high school. So I never had a problem with maintaining friendships and that sort of thing.
Sweet. And was you ambitious at that age? I mean, what if I was to say to you, like Hussain, what did you want to be when you was like 5? Can you remember what you wanted to be, what your ambitions were?
Just rich. I don't know if have you ever seen the movie Office Space?
Mate, I don't watch many films at all. I'm terrible watching films.
Okay, so there's this movie Office Space, and it was introduced to me when I was 18. So just to kind of bounce around a little bit. When I was 18, I graduated high school in Brooklyn. And if you know anything about Brooklyn, there's really not much for you to do once you graduate. And I knew I wasn't going to college. And my mom knew I wasn't going to college. It just was what it was. So I had never really been anywhere, right, in front of inner city. So my mom bought a plane ticket for me, which was a one-way ticket. And I didn't know any better at the time. So I thought I was being rewarded with a gift for graduation. But what she really did was she sent me to the Midwest and allowed me to live with one of my cousins so that I could stay out of trouble and had a better shot at a good quality of life. So now I'm going to tell you where the movie comes in and how I was as a child. So I worked for AT&T when I was 19. So when I'm 18, 19, I'm making more money than my mom, who's a teacher with a master's degree, because I work for a big corporation in the Midwest. And then also the cost of living in the Midwest compared to New York, it's like doubling your money. So I'm really young with all this money, this, that, and the third, but it's an extremely boring corporate job. So in the office, a friend of mine passed me this movie, said, you got to see this movie. And it's like a carbon copy of the nonsense that goes on at a big company, like wasted movement and corporate structure. So anyway, so the main character, they do this thing where they try to figure out whether they're going to fire him or not. And they ask him, if you had like basically all the money in the world, what would you do? And he said, I'd do nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? He said, I do absolutely nothing and I love it. And that's still kind of my mindset today. And that's basically who I was as a child. I just knew that I wanted freedom to do whatever it is that I want. Like right now, I'm talking to you from a totally different state because I can afford to do so. My wife's retired, I'm retired, and we're just here for an undetermined amount of time because we can afford to do that. Tomorrow I might go somewhere, I might not. It's whatever I want to do. So I don't know how, but at an early age, I understood that money provides freedom. I don't want money just to say how much I have. I want money to be able to say, today I want to learn how to play the piano. And then I'm going to go do that. Because I always like just trying new things.
I love that because about a year ago, I discovered that as well. I haven't discovered the freedom that you've got yet. But I was always, and I've talked about this loads of times with many a guest, that I was always the guy that wanted the Porsche 911, the house on the hill. I perceived success as having shitloads of money. Whereas now, money is a tool to me. I look at it in the sense that my end goal, the goal that I've set in my life, is to die happy with giving the freedom that I possibly can to my family. And, you know, I've learned that, you know, money doesn't buy you happiness, but at the same time, it buys you freedom. So I can 100% follow everything that you're saying there, mate. And that's awesome. One thing I wanted to say as well, while we're talking about movies, is I understand that one of your favorite films of all time is also one of my favorite films of all time. And that's Juice, Tupac's first ever involvement in any films. What an awesome film. And it's a film that when we're over here in the UK, I mean, I'm a big hip hop fan myself, growing up in the 90s. And you got films like New Jack City and Boys in the Hood and you know, all those sort of films. Juice was a film that was never really, it wasn't a big film here in the UK.
It's you know what's funny, because and I'm just assuming, I would assume, because right, you said Boys in the Hood, so that's Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And then you have New Jack City. There weren't really any rappers in that one, but Tupac is like iconic. So even maybe retro, it's surprising that that movie didn't kind of catch more steam and gain more popularity in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, it was I think it was Tupac's first film that he ever done, wasn't it? So it would have been really early on in his career, I presume. I'm not a huge Tupac fan myself, but I know that he's massive in America and he's massive over here. Do you believe Tupac could still possibly be alive? I mean, that's one thing through these conspiracy theories that I hear all the time, that Tupac's actually alive. Do you reckon he could be alive? And if so, where the frickin' hell is he?
I would say this: with all the new developments that we see with politics and all sorts of things that are kind of coming out, I wouldn't be surprised. So the question is there a possibility? I'm a free thinker, so I'd say anything is possible. With that being said, who knows? And I think that's the good thing, right? There's like a couple 100,000 or something like that, a couple thousand islands that supposedly have never been touched by man. I mean, you could buy a private island for 500,000. They have $250,000 private islands. So I'll take this further with you. Let's operate under the premise that Tupac is still alive, right? Then why would he in turn fake his death? So if you go retro and you look at the developments of Suge Knight, somebody like that, and what he was dealing with, and what we know about hip hop and the music industry now versus in the 90s, right? These guys were getting like 5 or 6 points off of an album, right? Which is 8 cents each point. So he's getting 30, 40 cents an album. Meanwhile, Suge Knight's getting $5 or $6 off that album. He had a terrible contract with him because of how he, was able to get out of prison and such. So even Tupac said it at the peak of his fame. He said, "I'm too rich to be in the hood, but I'm too black to be accepted in the suburbs. Like white people don't want me in their neighborhood, but I can't go to the hood because I won't survive it." So I think that echoes the sentiment of money doesn't make you happy. He was lonely at the peak of his success.
People don't realize how an intelligent guy he was, neither. I mean, he was a very, very, I mean, I think wasn't his mum an activist or she was an actress, wasn't she? And she was like a very, very intelligent lady. And, it fed down to him as well, didn't it?
Yeah, his mom and his dad were a part of Black Panthers. So he grew up around that type of indoctrination where he was told that he was somebody to be respected and you should have certain liberties and certain rights and certain freedoms that, in America, even today, we could say we still don't get as Black people in America, right? There's obvious disparities and differences between white and Black that it really shouldn't be 50 some odd years after civil rights. So he was extremely intelligent. He went to performing arts. So he was really an artist, right? He really wrote poetry outside of just writing rhymes. So yeah, I think he was a gifted person and a bigger star. Like his star surpassed his music, which is why we're still talking about him, 25 years, 30 years after he died.
A few of the guests that I've interviewed over the years, I mean, I've talked to them about hip hop. And how do you see hip hop in 2021? Is it still a big thing where you are, and how has it changed in the last 30 years to you?
Well, I know that hip hop is for the youth. So what teenagers listen to is a different iteration of the music. It's evolved in a certain way. Now, I don't love necessarily the mass that's produced right now, because I think, like most things, the corporate structure has its hands on it too much, right? Like it's supposed to be art. It's supposed to be an expression of something. It's supposed to really tell something. But the corporate structure is now involved in it where it's like, we know nobody's buying CDs anymore. So we have to generate a hit. It doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be a hit because we know people's attention spans aren't going to last. And what we're looking at, if we're looking at like the bigger stars out here, they're really selling their image because we have this thing called social media. So like the popular artists are the ones who could stay relevant because of scandals or things that really have nothing to do with the music. So I think in terms of a style, I think I'm going to prefer my 90s, early 2000s, because to me, that's the golden era, because that's what I grew up with. That's what I can relate to. But in terms of a business, I believe artists are getting a lot more money. So I like that because there's a lot more independent artists, right? You can put stuff out on YouTube or whatever and collect most of your revenue. So, and you don't need a major as much because it's direct to market marketing. So I like some things about the business, but I don't like the fact that, most major music companies are older white guys, right? And they get to say so on what music for an urban youth they get to pick and choose. That doesn't make sense. So yeah. I don't like that part of it.
Yeah, fair. We'll move on and talk a little bit more about that later on. But I want to briefly talk about, you said that you was in the corporate world and then you became a maths teacher, like followed in your mum's footsteps. What made the change to you? Why from a corporate world to maths as a teacher?
Well, when you live in Brooklyn, the only jobs I was going to have really an opportunity to get was a minimum wage job, maybe some sort of construction work, something physical like that, because there aren't many opportunities. Like most places, right? 80% of jobs are given to someone based on a referral. So it's not like I had many opportunities based on things and the access I had where I was from. So being in the Midwest, I kind of had like a little bit more of a level playing field. Just demographically, when I went to go apply for a job, maybe 100 people applied, whereas in New York, 10,000 were going to apply. So I kind of fell into the corporate structure because my cousin is a mid-level manager, and he said, "Look, there's an opportunity, take it." So I took it, and the money was great, and it's Minneapolis. So I don't know if you know Minneapolis, but it snows like 7 to 8 months out the year. It's extremely cold, and nobody wants to be there. So, so if you're able to, if you're able to articulate, and if you're able to have good customer service, right, that smile in your voice kind of thing, and you have a little bit of sense, and numbers, it's a good job for you. So the money was great, but I learned very fast that it's kind of like a dead end job where I worked on people who were 15, 20 years in, and they were still doing the same thing. And it was like meaningless work. And not to say anything about somebody who retired from there, like everybody has their own fit. But for me, just kind of like clearing up accounts and helping people with their, $1 million lines, that wasn't fulfilling to me. So there was an opportunity to do volunteer work, and we work with the Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we were able to go to a school in a high poverty area and volunteer our time, and that's also in the book. That's a piece of the book. So just to preface, like the book is not a life story. It's stories in my life that showed me how to kind of like change my mindset. But anyway, so working with these kids, we were only supposed to be there like 2 hours. And there were some people who showed up late and left early and took cigarette breaks. And we were supposed to work with one kid that we passed notes back and forth to for a couple months. I ended up with 5 or 6 kids hanging out with me. I stayed almost the whole day, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I need to do. Like, I need to be working with kids, because I remember being in school and I would get in trouble for things that I probably shouldn't have got in trouble for, or I wouldn't get the highest marks. And, you could say it's racism, we could say whatever it is, but I just knew that it was the reality. A lot of my teachers didn't want me to be successful in their class for whatever reason. And I had a couple of cool teachers, and I wanted to be that cool teacher for that BC student that could go either way. So after that experience, I signed up for a community college out there in Minneapolis, and I ended up back in New York and doing my full university master's and all of that.
Yeah, I was the same. I was the kind of guy that I didn't know what I wanted in school. And I find that when you don't know what you want in school and you sit there staring into space and the teacher's like, Mark, why aren't you paying attention? It's not because I want to be disruptive, and it's not because I can't be asked. It's because what you're teaching me, I don't want to be learning, and I just think that over here in the UK, the education system is totally out of date. It needs updating. And I think that you need a lot more teachers that are able to communicate better to their pupils and find out what really turns them on, rather than just feeding them the same bollocks that we hear time and time again about World War I and World War II. And not that there's anything wrong with that. We need to find out, we need to know our history and where we grew up and the cultures and all that sort of stuff. But I think we need to be educated a little bit more on, like how to buy a house, relationships, money, and all that stuff. There's more important things in life. Social media and all that. We need to learn what's going on in the world in 2020. We need people to communicate that to us in 2021.
Well, I have a question for you, since we're talking about the UK and the structure. I know, at least in New York, because America is vast, right? America is almost like a continent in terms of like, I've been to Italy, and I know Italy's just like the size of a state here and that sort of thing. So, you could go across states, and there's total different philosophies in terms of what good education looks like. So what does education look like in terms of like, what's a classroom setting? What's the size? Is it like collaborative? Is it just rows and kids look forward? Or like, what's a typical classroom look like out in the UK?
That's a difficult question, because I haven't been in a classroom for about 25 years. But what it used to be like is you had the teacher at the front of the class. There was about between 25 and 30 pupils in the classroom, and it would be rows, like it was in the 60s and 70s. Nothing's really changed like that. And I've got 2 children, Zach and Ethan. Zach's 10, Ethan's 7. So they're at primary school, and primary school's very different to secondary school. So they've got like little clusters of tables. But I can't really answer that, mate, because I haven't been in the teaching environment for 25 years. But it hasn't changed much, I don't think.
Okay, that sounds about right. And then you said in primary school having like the little groups. So it seems like they're trying to push more collaboration and that sort of thing. But I mean, well, then if you look at it like this, and this is just me, postulating, right, hypothesizing. But why was public education created? What was the purpose of mass education?
Well, to teach and to build a community and for a social activity. I'm just guessing. I don't really know, to be honest with you. To educate,
You would hope, right?
Yeah.
But the purpose of mass education was to create a workforce. That's why you have bells and lines and formation. School, public school, was never created to educate. I'll speak for the US. You can do the research and we'll talk about it after about the UK. But in America, when mass education started, it was because the factory system started, right? So you needed to train people enough to know how to operate machinery, how to do jobs so that the rich could continue to do what it was that they were doing, right? Slavery ended. So that market, we'll call it, shifted. So that's why we have mass education. Mass education was never created to teach entrepreneurship, leadership, and creative thinking. It was created, and that's why it's 12 years long. See, it takes 12 years to brainwash or indoctrinate somebody. That's the only reason why school is 12 years long. You learn the same stuff over and over, right? So that structure was set up because they needed a massive amount of people to say, yeah, I'm happy with a 9 to 5. Yeah, I'm happy with getting $10 an hour. I'm happy with benefits. I'm happy with waiting till I'm 65 to have enough money to live off of. Because if everybody thought, well, if I create my own company, I could charge this or we could negotiate or whatever, the bigger companies will fall apart.
Right. So why did you leave teaching then? Because I mean, it seems to me that you loved what you was doing. You loved educating children and being that person that everybody looks up to. Why did you decide to leave education and go into real estate?
The good thing, the fact of the matter is, I've never stopped educating. That's all this is. That all of this conversation, right, is me sharing information, hopefully sparking some new ideas, and then you saying, you know what, let me go figure that out. Let me fact check them. Let me see. And if I could do that, then I'm still an educator. And this is what good education looks like. It's called like Socratic Method, right? Like Socrates. It should be question and answer. It should be dialogue. When I train teachers, rule of thumb I would have in a lesson plan: if you are speaking more than the children, you have to have a bad lesson plan. Because it shouldn't be about what you're saying. It should be about what the kids are giving you, and then you're facilitating. A teacher should be a facilitator, not a sage on the stage. Now, with that being said, real estate investment started as early for me as like 18, 19, when I saw other people owning homes. And I saw the benefits of that. And I started, remember, I was 18, 19, working with 40-year-old people. So I'm hearing their 40-year-old problems, like I got a car note, I have this, that, and the third. So I start gravitating towards those types of conversations because these people live great lives. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment at one point with 4 adults and a baby in a 1-bedroom. Like, and my mother had a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a real tough part of New York. And not even one of the worst, but in a tough part considering if you compare it to other places in the world or in the country. So now I moved to another place where there's grass, front yards. People have cars. Like, nobody had a car in New York like that. Like, first of all, you don't need one, but second of all, you know what I'm saying? Like, the quality of life is so different. So it just made sense to invest in real estate. And then when I started learning about the money that you could make on investments, forget about it. And so now that's all I do is I teach people how to invest their money.
That's good. I love it. Yeah, because like I said, you see people as a teacher. You know, I was once upon a time a teacher, but you know, you don't think that what you're doing now is still teaching. It's just a different medium of doing it. You know, and I like that. That's really awesome. Um, so you started in real estate. You know, and you know, and now you've got, is it HA Homes? Is it, you say?
Yeah.
What are the values of Homes then? You know, what are the values in that brand?
Oh, definitely. Integrity has to be primary. Transparency is key, and just making sure that my clients have a full understanding, as best as possible, for what they're getting themselves into. A lot of times people don't understand what they're signing up for. If you get most people, if you took a survey, 100 random people, and asked them, you know, what do you think of when you think of like a landlord? Most people think of probably like some rich, older, maybe fat guy with tons of money, and but that's not really the case. A large amount rather, of landlords are, you know, firemen, policemen. Maybe they live in a duplex, or they inherited a piece of property. It's a little guy. It's an average Joe. And so, with that being said, they don't see themselves as that, which I think is done purposely. Because then, if you don't think that you could attain something, you're never going to aspire to it, and then the circle continues to go, right? The wealth goes to a small percentage, and everybody else, you know, kind of stays poor. So for me, it just was an extension of the classroom. Like you said with the previous question, the only thing I did was say, why am I going to let the city of New York pay me $100,000 a year, which breaks down to about $300 a day? Why am I going to let them pay me $300 a day when I can make 3,000 a day doing the same exact thing with my information? And that's the only thing that changed. I still have the same morals. I grew up, again, not to make it like I grew up in, like, you know, a third world country or something, but Brooklyn is rough. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
stuff happens, especially back in the days. Now it's a little bit softer, but still, you know, I grew up a certain kind of way where if you didn't have good ethics and you didn't have good morals, or you moved a certain kind of way, you could be in really bad situations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I learned integrity, even though we didn't have the vocabulary, we didn't know the word integrity. You knew that we did a deal, it had to be done a square way. You never try to, mess somebody over, because there's repercussions for that, and unless you're willing to deal with that. Now, as a grown man, I'm not trying to deal with that. I just want to keep people happy as best as possible, and make sure that they're informed, and make sure that they have a real picture before I take their money and invest it.
Yeah. Why do you think that you grew up the way that you did, living in Brooklyn, and you didn't become another one of those lads on the street, you know, just dossing about and smoking weed and drinking? What do you think made you go the route that you did?
I think it's my mom's upbringing. My mother's from Alabama. That's like deep, deep South. Like, to give you an example, like Texas just passed a bill a couple days ago where they're gonna exclude, or not exclude. I want to phrase it exactly. It's no longer mandated to teach about Martin Luther King, and they are erasing the doctrine that says the KKK is a bad thing. They're going to talk about it, but it's not going to say that it's immoral. That's Texas. That's the South.
Mm.
Alabama is behind Texas in terms of progression.
Right.
It's like one of the most backward, and I mean, I love Alabama, but I'm just saying in terms of progression, it has a long way to go to catch up to LGBTQ, women's rights.
Yeah.
It's way back. My
Yeah.
mom grew up in the South pre-civil rights. So my mom has an incredible work ethic, and she has a very, how do you want to say it? A very old school way about her. So when it came time for school, she never let me go to school in my neighborhood. None of my friends in my neighborhood had that opportunity. Like, none of us had dads. None of us grew up with our fathers. So it was all older dudes or teenagers raising us up. So that's who the role models were. But my mother never let me go to that school. She put me in a school where she worked, where it was like one of the best school districts in the city. So I had access to the best education. I had access, prenatal care, because my mom had insurance. A lot of my friends, their moms didn't have insurance. Little things like that I believe are done purposefully to keep the separation between rich and poor. I mean, you could call it racism too, but we'll make it bigger than racism. I think those types of things are done intentionally, because how could it not be intentional if it's a clear problem but you can't fix it? So I think I was given a lot of opportunities that a lot of my friends didn't have, but I also believe I was raised with a certain work ethic that a lot of people, forget just my friends, just don't have. I work harder than people who make 100th of the money I have, and I'm still working harder than them because I love what I do. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's the secret. I've had the opportunity to find what I really appreciate and enjoy, and I found a way to get paid for it. So like, why would I stop?
And when you find something that you love doing, there's not enough hours in the day, is there? I mean, sometimes, I mean, do you ever want to go to bed some days? Do you know what I mean?
My wife's over here working right now. She's recording right now behind the scenes. Like, we love what we do, and she has to, curtail me sometimes. Like, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you shouldn't send that text. I'm like, but they're active. Like, we could. What time did I text you? And I know we have a time difference. But all right, what time did you get your text?
I got my text. Today?
The first one when I reached out to you.
Oh, I don't honestly know, mate, to be honest with you. I know it. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so that would make it about midnight, 1 o'clock over your way, I'd have thought. Yeah.
And I was here texting. And I only felt like I could get away with it because you were in a different time zone. But I was working, and I mean, is this work? It's almost criminal to call this work. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun. This is all fun.
Yeah, I know you said integrity is a big value to you, but I also know that community is to you as well. Community is huge to you. So how do you define community?
Oh, wow. There's so many. Community is so much, but just in general, community is just any group of people who agree on a collection of rules that govern that group, right? So that's like a real formal definition, but I mean, that's what it is. Right now, you and I are a community, even though there's 2 of us. There's certain rules that are understood, and there's certain rules that we've established. Like you said, hey, this is what the conversation is going to look like. So if I deviate from that, then I'm not being a good community member. If it's a larger collective like the Aiken Homes community, which has right now just under 100 clients, that community knows I operate a certain time. I have a certain business hours. They can ask certain types of questions. I'll show them certain type of doctrine and documents, and that's the community. So a community can exist in any range, from 2 people to the 7.2 billion people in the community of Earth.
I've wrote down on my notes here. I jotted a few little things down, and one of the things I put here, funny enough, I'm looking at is it says, how do we make money in 2021? I mean, this is something that we all want to know. This is why you've come on to promote yourself and to have a chat. So in 2021, how do we make money, mate?
Wow, it depends on where you are on the spectrum. So how do I make money? My money makes my money. So I don't even have a number, but I would say over 90% of my money is moving right now. It's invested in something. I don't know what inflation is like over in the UK, but I would assume it's probably similar to here in the US. And in the US, inflation is about 3% every year. So that means if you're one of the lucky Americans who can afford to have money in a savings account, you're losing 3% annually. So why would you do it? Why? Once I learned about inflation and that sort of thing, I would never, ever, ever. And I have friends that are bankers. Like, and I love him because we make money together. But I would never put my money in a savings account, and I would never put a lump sum of money in a low yield account because I know I'm losing money. So maybe the answer to that question is, how do we make money in 2021? The first step is you have to educate yourself. And education looks different for a lot of people, but maybe one step in education is, what do I really want to do? And it goes back to that old question. If you had all the money in the world, or if you had 100 million or 200 million or whatever it is, what would you do? Because you wouldn't show up to work. Most people would not go back to their 9 to 5 if they had, endless amounts of money. So you have to figure that out, which for some people, they've been going down one path so long, they don't even know what they like anymore. So one thing would be educate yourself on what you like to do and what you think you could do every day. And then the next thing is learn the rules to the game. So one of the things I teach, and I'm not a CPA, not a lawyer, nothing like that, but I can give you certain tax benefits where I could turn your dollar into $3 just because of the laws that we have in America. And a lot of times people are like, that has to be illegal. Like, no, you're just uneducated. It's totally legal. And that's why you complain about, uber rich people paying 4 or 5% on taxes. Well, I pay the same amount. Last year, we only paid 5% on everything we grossed. I'm not going to pay 30, 40%, even though that's my bracket. Why should I? These are the rules. It's legal for us to do that. So education is how you make money in 2021 and beyond.
What about cryptocurrency? Have you dabbled in that at all? And I know the answer to this because Howard's told me.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny. I'm a big proponent of education, obviously. So when I don't know something, I ask. And when I see something that I want to learn about, I go to somebody who I see is the best in the field. So I have a mentor in cryptocurrency. And it's funny because, we all lost that 50 or 60%. And we're still hurting. Like, I still have all my investments because I'm like, I'm not going to pull it out. That was like play money anyway. And so what he says is, there are some people who are upset because they lost half of their money, but how they could be looking at it is that they tripled their initial investment. So instead of having 400%, okay, you only have 200%. Boo-hoo. You're still doing way better than you were doing before. Because a lot of his clients pulled out their money because they lost so much and they ended up in the red. I'm still in the black by far. But I personally don't invest a lot of money in things that I can't control because I don't gamble. I don't gamble at all. But, crypto was fun. You had to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I started in February and I put away £25 a week. And that's money that I can afford to put away. But I used to go out and buy coffee and cakes and stuff like that. So one day I said, rather than doing that, I'm going to put that money in to cryptocurrency. And I'm only going to put in what I can afford to lose. Right. So that's money that I was just putting on my waist, so, eating and so I'm putting in £25 a week. Now, if I lose all of that, I haven't lost it because I was going to lose it anyway. So like I say, I've been out there and I've educated myself on cryptocurrency. Currently, as it is, I've invested £460 and I look today and I've got 330 in. So I am in the red. But I have been doing my revision and looking at it, and I know deep down inside, I trust in the system, and I know that it's going to come good. So I like what you say there about educating yourself, because there's too many people out there that are just out to make the quick buck all the time, isn't there?
Yes, and that's one of the biggest problems I face in all of my business ventures. And starting out, I feel like I had to do things, or I had to try to sell or convince people because I wasn't where I wanted to be. And if you're ambitious, you're never where you want to be because there's always another challenge, right? And that's part of the fun because it's competition. You're competing against yourself, or you're competing against last year's numbers or what have you. So what I find is that everybody and when I say that, I'm generalizing, right? Obviously, not every single human, but the majority of people that I come across want get rich quick. And the reality is there is no get rich quick. I've been investing for a long time. And the only thing that I know to be true is the law of compounding. So even if I'm getting similar profit margins as I did maybe 5 years ago, I'm investing so much more money that just exponentially I'm going to make more. So for the people who may not understand what I'm talking about, because I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of high school work and a lot of, so I'm gonna make sure I explain this so that everybody's on the same wavelength. So if I said, hey, Mark, you invested 460 pounds. Let's say you double that, right? And in a calendar year. Okay, so you have 920, right? You said 460, so 920. So you take that profit, let's call it 480, just to make the math simple.
Yeah.
So 480, and you made, you double the 480, so you got 960. So 480 divided by 12 months, for $40 a month. Now, 100% return on an investment that's amazing. But it's only $40 a month. So what is that, a cell phone?
Yeah.
So now let's say I invested 480,000 and I got the same margin. So now I made 480,000. So now that means I profited 40,000 a month. I'm in a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So when people and kids, I'm really focused on kids mostly, is that they see Warren Buffett and well, he bought, 70 million Coca-Cola stock. So I'm gonna put my $30 into Coca-Cola and I'm gonna live like Warren Buffett. I'm like, the cost to trade is gonna cost you more than the 38 cents that you just made in profit. And they don't understand that because they're looking at like a final product, and too many people see the world like that. They don't understand that it's relative.
Yeah. You've gone really quiet now there, mate. I don't know. Since you dropped your earbud, you've gone a bit quiet. Give it a go again there, mate.
Hold on, is this better?
No, it's the same as what it was, mate. No problem.
Let me see. So, no, nothing.
That's perfect. That's
All right,
you.
cool.
You was getting too excited, buddy.
Yeah. I'm not an earbuds guy. I get afraid of all the frequencies and around your face. I don't trust it yet.
No worries. Well, that's good that you've come on to that, actually, the word trust. Because, I mean, over here in the UK, my there's lots and lots of people that's being scammed and ripped off, elderly people wanting to invest their money. They want to trust people, but, they don't know who to trust. And, what do you do as a human being to make other human beings trust you and what you do?
I'm just myself. And I find that earlier when I was saying that, I would do things and I almost had to beg people to invest with my company early on. And then what I realized after I found a certain level of success is I didn't deserve their trust because I was able to separate trust in Hussain as a person and trust in Hussain's expertise with my money. So you should be able, if anybody who's going to take your money and they're going to give you a guarantee or they're going to give you a projection, they have to have data. And that data should be verifiable. Now, certain like stocks or whatever, you always are going to be able to go back and see the history and see their performance. Now, sometimes people send you just their best results. I share all of my results. And then I show you the average. And the cool thing about real estate is it's public record. So you could see I bought it on this date, I sold it on this date, this much, that much. I can't make that up. So I think the trust comes from seeing the results. I don't want you to trust me as a person, but I do have integrity, and I think that that's really important. If I was like a philandering person, or I did drugs, or even if I had good results, you wouldn't trust me as a person. Not that I don't do those things because I want your money, but I'm myself. So like I show up to events, like I don't know if you can see in the video, like covered in tattoos, and I dress in sweatpants and t-shirts. And like, and if you don't want to do business with me, that's cool. Like, I don't want to work with you anyway. Because if you're looking at my t-shirt and that's why you don't want to do business with me, I don't think we're going to do well together when something comes up in business. So I think for anybody that's trying to start a business or they're trying to get into something, be yourself, because people can sense when you're not being authentic. And then if you're not authentic about this, then what's going to happen when it comes to the money? So I think trust is just a matter of just being transparent and being honest with yourself.
That's what I tell people all the time when I try to help them with podcasting is like, don't try to be the next Joe Rogan, right? Just be yourself. Find out your own interviewing techniques. Find out what works, you know, because there's no point in being other people. It just does not work. Just be yourself. If you mess your words up, if you're like me, getting people's names wrong all the time, you know, I used to stress out about people's names, and because I'd be looking at the names and I'd be, am I pronouncing it right? I'd always pronounce it wrong. So then I thought, well, rather than just worrying about that, just revel on it and laugh about it and say, look, I'm sorry, mate, for messing your name up. I'm terrible at it. And people laugh at it, and it became part of me. Like, you know, it's all about being yourself. And one thing that I have noticed, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, is that in the last 10 years, people that were standing up on stage giving talks, it has changed. You know, you're not getting the people standing up there in the suit and tie now. There are people standing up in shirts with tattoos and stuff like that, you know, and it's such a shame that, you know, other societies in life are looked upon different because of the way they are and the way they dress, and because of having tattoos and stuff, you know, like doctors and surgeons, you know, they have to cover themselves up because of the profession anyway. But, you know, how would you feel if you stood there and there was a bloke that was going to give you a heart operation? How would you look at that person different in a shirt and tie to where having tattoos on his arm and an earring and, you know, do you know what I mean? There's some societies in life that haven't adapted yet. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, maybe I'm unbiased or biased, you know, depending on how you perceive it, because of where I grew up. I grew up in the melting pot. I mean, I'm Hussain Abdullah, and I'm Black and Puerto Rican. So, like, those are three things, or two or three, that usually may not necessarily go together, or that you might not associate, but it is what it is. So, you know, you hear my name and you might get a certain perception, or you hear my nationality, or you hear my race. And so you can't really put me together, but that's because of where I was raised. Like, you know, I've eaten all types of foods. I can speak a little bit of these different languages because my friends were from all over. I mean, the West Village is right there. So we've seen all of these things growing up. And to me, that's normal. But then now living in Texas, you know, there's a lot of things that is very traditional and it's one way. So I don't fault people for having, and I don't want to say limited view because then it makes it seem like I'm other, but we'll say an alternate view. We'll say I think that's the best way to say it. For having different perspectives, because you know, you're a product of your environment, no matter how you slice it. So for me, I don't necessarily judge people on how they look. As a rule, I judge people on their character. If you come in a room and you have tattoos and an earring and you're a jerk, maybe I don't want you to do my surgery, but maybe that shouldn't matter if you're the best surgeon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not judging your work as a surgeon on your outfit. Like, that is not why I'm here. So you could be a jerk, but if you're a really good surgeon, yeah, I'm only here for one thing, and then I'll leave. I don't see it like that, and maybe that's one of the reasons I found success in business, because there are a lot of people who may walk into an office or see somebody's car or whatever and not want to do business with them because they don't fit your ideal of what a businessman, a businesswoman should look like. But you're already broke. Like, you should be focused on how to get where they are. But you know, that's another conversation.
So what car have you got?
Which one?
All right, okay. What car have you got?
I never. That's a For me, that's more of a. There's more to being said than. How about this? Like, how about this? I'll just show you my watch. Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. So this, and I had this. There's a story behind this, right? So you can see. This is the watch I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
Presidential with diamond. So if I have this watch, what car do I drive? And this is one of a collection of Rolexes.
Well, I don't know. I'm not big up on cars. I would say something flashy like an Aston Martin or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that.
And you'll never know. And that mystique, it does more than revealing what it is. You might see me in one city in one car. You might see me in another city in another car. You might see me in a regular. People in Killeen, I'm in a Nissan, regular Ultima, because it shouldn't matter.
I love the fact that you've left that in suspense now, because I want to know what car you got.
Yeah, you want to know which one. You want to know, and keep tuning in to figure it out. Because sometimes, you know, I might be on a video, and like I'll be getting out of a car, and you can see. Or sometimes somebody will take a picture of me, and you'll see the steering wheel. Or sometimes you'll see. But like I don't wear this watch every day. I don't wear certain chains every day. But there's another reason for that, you know, or kind of all jokes aside, is that I become a target.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm in an Aston Martin in the middle of the heart of Texas, in high poverty, high crime areas where I make the most of my money, you see me coming a mile away. And that's not good. And on social media, people see me before I see them. I have so many people who follow me, I don't know who they are. But they know who I am because I'm putting my life out there. So it's a matter of security.
The only reason why I ask that is because I've discovered my goal, my values, and I've discovered what I want. And when I was writing out a list of goals about 6 months ago, I put there that I wanted a Porsche 911. I've always wanted a Porsche 911 ever since I was a little kid. And about 2 months later, I redone my goals, and I took off the Porsche 911. And a friend of mine said, "Why have you taken off the Porsche 911?" And I said, "Because I hate rear-wheel drive cars," right? But over the years, I've wanted that Porsche 911 because it was, to me, a status symbol. You know, right. I would look good in a Porsche 911. I would have people looking at me and saying, "Oh, he's successful because he's got a Porsche 911." I wasn't buying the car that I wanted that was suited for me. I was buying the status symbol. And I think that so many people go out there and buy the BMW or the Jag or the Audi and stuff, and they actually hate the car. They just buy it because, you know, it makes them look good in it, you know?
When you finish the book, that's all in the book.
Sweet. Cool.
The first time I got a BMW, the first time I did that's all in the book. And what I'm gonna say this, man, you should just get the 911. But what happens is I'm just gonna tell you that. I'm just gonna tell you that, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying that right now. Because if you made $50 million, what's a 911? 150K? Like the best one you can get 150. It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
And then at that level, you're gonna be business. It'll be a write-off. And then it's a story to tell. You know what I'm saying? So this watch, I wanted this watch because of hip hop. Because it's the watch Biggie had, it's the watch Jay-Z talked about. And it's a factory one. I got it exactly the way that they wore it and said it back then. The other one I got is a Pepsi Rolex. I don't know if you know watches, but it's like a highly sought after, only collectors know what the Pepsi is. Right. So if you want to Google it, you look, I got a Pepsi Rolex because I seen Memphis Bleek wearing it. And I was like, I got to get that watch. So I bought the same model, the same one to the year think of it like a vintage car. Like if you wanted a 2010 Porsche 911 and then you made your money and then you went back and got the exact one you always wanted. It's the same thing with this watch. Right. And I have in the back of it, it says everything in time and engraved in it. I don't know if it'll come out on camera, but everything in time. I don't know if you could see it, but it says it. I have pictures. There you go.
See it? Yeah.
Everything in time. I wanted this watch for almost 18 years. When I got it, it was a status symbol, but it also was like something that hallmarked my success, kind of like a diploma after you graduate school.
I'm with you.
So this watch means more to me than the value. I could buy a more expensive watch, but it's important to me because of what it represented to me, which is why I'm saying if and when you're ready and you don't feel it, that's when you should get that car. Because it's not just gonna make you feel better, but it'll hallmark something. And if it's not important to you, it's not important to you. But I mean, there's a lot of cars. You picked that car for a reason. So for whatever reason, just for yourself, even if you don't even drive it, you'll have that kind of money. It won't even matter. And it'll be something that to look at, and you'll be like, "That's the one. Give it to one of your kids." It doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of kind of I know you're not a movie buff, but Citizen Kane,
No.
Rosebud, right? So Citizen Kane was famous for whatever because it's an old movie, but Rosebud was his sled. So he had all the money in the world, and when he's on his deathbed, he screams out Rosebud. I'm not gonna tell you what it means, but really, Rosebud was a sled. And I watched that movie first year in college in a film class because I tried to take an easy class, and I got like the worst grade because they were really serious about film, and I really wasn't. I thought it was just gonna be an easy class, but anyway. Um, so all the things that I wanted when I couldn't afford it, I made sure that I got them just cause. So like again, my wife bought me all four Ninja Turtles. They just did like a 30th anniversary, and they're like in a set, like the original four, like from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I either like traded for one or like got a used one, but I had all four of them. But they definitely, I didn't bust a seal on the four of them. In my office right now, I have all four in the box. It was like an $80 gift. Those Ninja Turtle toys mean more to me than a diamond necklace.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A little bit like Gary V with his Pokemon cards and in his baseball and cards and stuff. And I mean, I really admire that bloke. I'd never used to like him at first, but I do admire him because he says that he always wants to buy the jets, and he says it's not the fact of buying them, it's the chase, so that he knows that he'd probably never ever be able to afford it, but it's the fact that one day he will get it, and he can say, I've been chasing for 50 years to get this, and now I've got the money to do it. And that all goes back to what I was saying about time and patience. And I'm very, very impatient. I do what I love doing. This is episode 100 and I think 188 now, and loads of people say to me, "Oh, when are you going to start making money from it, Mark?" And I'm like, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm patient. If it happens, it happens. You never know when. I could do 400 episodes, and one day I could interview a guy, and he could say, "Mark, I really, really enjoy that. I want you to come on my radio show," and then I'm making money from it. So I'm a huge believer in educating people just to be patient, and don't start up your YouTube channel and expect to have 100,000 people on your second, because it's not going to happen. That it occasionally does happen, but in the realistic world, people are rock stars. They go to gigs and they do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gigs before they even get found. They'll go on tours hundreds of times before they get found. Occasionally you get a guy that's successful bang overnight, but realistically, it doesn't happen like that, does it?
I agree. And they say it takes 10,000 hours to become a master. So how much time have you put in? I always say this. It's something it's not that I created the concept, but I always repeat it. You get what you deserve. More times than not, you get what you deserve. If you're broke, it's because you deserve it. If you're rich, it's because you deserve it. If you're happy, it's because you deserve it. So on and so forth. Because everything that's worthwhile takes effort, energy, consistent, patience, humility. Like, you have to really earn all of those things. So for the get rich quick people, they're always going to be broke because they're always going to try to find a loophole. And there's going to be those quick overnight scam artist guys who are going to be right there to reel it in. And then bang, they're going to have their ticket. But even those guys have to fish and work to attract those people, right? So they're really earning it. Whether what the product they're selling is good or not, that doesn't matter. But they're earning their wealth. So I agree. I think, you keep doing your podcast. Like just Howard, since we have a mutual friend, Howard and I became friends through the podcast. Hopefully you and I can become friends through the podcast. Howard gives me information about certain things. I give Howard information about certain things. Howard is able to make money now because of our relationship, because we have a friendship. So when people say, well, are you getting money in terms of like monetizing? Is that more valuable than the value of the conversation and what you can do with that newfound information? Because someone like myself can say, hey, Mark, all right, well, but this is what you should do with your money. Here, I'm gonna refer you to my guy. He's gonna give you some tips on crypto, and maybe you could.
Mm.
So I love that you brought that up, and I love that people like that exist because it always gives me kind of like an embodiment of exactly what not to be like.
Yeah,
Why should
yeah,
anybody be worried about how much money you make?
yeah. But
That
it's
just shows that you're a star, and like it shows that you're emanating so much, and once you figure it out, it's all gonna click.
I love
So keep doing what you're doing.
I love the fact that you bring up there about networking with people and the opportunities it brings up, because episode 100 of this show, I interviewed a guy called James Aiken. Now, you may not know who he is, and hundreds of people don't know who he is, but he was a lead singer of a band called EMF back in the 90s. They'd done a song called Unbelievable. You might have heard it, you might not have. If you go on YouTube and type
Is
it
that
in.
you're unbelievable? Oh, dun, 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 dun.
Well,
Okay.
I've told the story hundreds of times. There was a girl that I used to fancy in the 90s, and the band that she liked was about this band called EMF. And for me to get in her pants, put it politely, I decided that if I started listening to her type of music, right, then it might work. Well, it didn't work, right? But what happened is, as a result, 30 years later, on episode 100, through networking and talking to people, I was able to interview James Aiken, a guy that I admired and grew up listening to his music in the 90s. So what I'm trying to get at, guys, is that money isn't everything, right? Start your passion today, and it will lead you in directions that it's not always a way of monetizing things, but it will lead you in directions that you can pick the fruit from the tree how you ever want to pick it, if that makes any sense to you at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes it's about leaving it better than you found it, right? In terms of earth or in terms of whatever community we're talking about or speaking about. And I I do a lot of things, like I do a lot of pro bono work because it's so much fun. Like you would think I left the classroom, I would never want to go in a school building again. I'm in schools all the time because like the cool thing is the kids.
Yeah.
It's getting them like, what? I can make money, that I can do that. What? Nobody ever told me that. And it's like I don't have the shackles or the restrictions based on what I have to put in the curriculum. I'm just coming in as a guest. And then they ask the same kind of thing. What kind of car do you have? How much? And I'm like, watch my story. And then maybe you'll see something. Or like I'll show them a picture of something and they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm just saying. So it's fun to be able to like energize and infuse good energy into just like as many people as possible. Like that's what we're here for. Like if you're not a beacon, like what are you really doing? So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we could close on a whatever price house, and that's cool. It happens. But walking into a classroom with 20 or 30 high school kids that do not want to be there, and 30 minutes in, 20 minutes in, they don't want to leave. There's no bigger rush. There's no bigger high. That is the best part of my day is working with kids and having them see that they have hope that they never knew that they had before.
That's lovely. I love that, mate. Hussain, I'm a bit cautious of your time and being respectful of your time. I know we said an hour. I've got a few things that I would want to quickly ask you before we shut shop. I looked on Instagram and it said on there, lazy money, busy money. So what's lazy money and what's busy money?
All right, lazy money, and if you look at the picture, it's a dollar bill sitting on a couch holding pizza, right? Lazy money is your money doing nothing. That's your money sitting in a bank account, sitting in your wallet. That's your money, just being thrown away, doing nothing for you. And busy money is actually inspired by it. It's a true story. One day it was like I had a roll of money, and there was a red rubber band around it. And I looked at it, and my daughter was like, "You should make a whole family, like little kids." And so she said it, and then I just was like, a roll of money with a headband. And so busy money is the money doing work for you. It's working for itself. It's bringing you money, and that's why it's thicker. a dollar bill versus a roll of money, and then the rubber band becomes the headband because it's working out. So busy money is when you put your money to work for you and for itself. Like I said, at least 90% of my money is tied up into something, whether it's in a house I'm flipping, whether it's in a business I'm purchasing, whether it's in an entity that I'm investing in to help get it off the ground because I see the potential in the founders and in the venture itself. My money does not sit in the bank. It does not. Because I know every dollar in there is losing 3% per annum.
Cool. And if any of my listeners now, right, want to get in contact with you, finding out about your book or finding out a little bit more about how they can make some money from real estate, right, where can they come and find you?
If you were to go on Google and you were to search HA Homes US, you'd be able to find our website, you'd be able to find Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and everything, any articles that were written about us, podcasts, everything, HA Homes US. Or you go on our website, hahomesus.com. If you want to learn more about the book, that's fearworkshops.com, because we offer workshops and seminars, which is totally different from just real estate investing. It's more about mindset and that sort of thing and finding happiness. On Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that, it's Fear WKSHP. So you have that. And we have one other thing that I think is critical. It's the Mary Kemp Foundation. Mary Kemp is my mom. Yeah. And so one of the things I did, and I think this speaks to who I am as a person. Yeah. So I did well and I got money, and I didn't necessarily go out and buy a Rolls Royce. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But maybe I could have bought another one. And what I did was, I'm in the process right now of building a community center in the middle of Texas in a town called Killeen, in a city called Killeen. It's very high crime, high poverty. We're going to put a bookstore there because it doesn't exist. And we're going to create an event space for locals to come out and say, I can come here for free and do a presentation. I'm an author. I could get my book in the store. I want to create opportunities, especially for young people, but definitely for aspiring business folks and entrepreneurs. We do workshops and all that. The community center is currently under construction. That's the Mary Kemp Foundation. There's a website for that. If you want to donate, $1 helps, £1 helps. All that money goes back to students and anything related to education. If you look at my page right now, you'll see my story. You'll see right now we're funding a project called Generation Esperanza. Shout out to Les. She's in Panama right now, giving book bags and school supplies to 150 students in Panama. These kids would not have these things, and we funded the whole thing, the airfare, everything. Because my real estate business is doing well, I created a foundation that's going to help give back to education. So that just says who I am as a person. We care about education. We care about leveling the playing field. And it's not just in America. If you have something that you want to do out where you are, let me know. We'll cut a check. We'll send it over there. If it's about helping kids, we do it. We have one kid that we help sponsor who's on his way to the Olympics because of a sports program. He couldn't afford his airfare. We paid it, and he competed. He won. Now he's on his way to the Olympics. We are trying to make sure that everybody has a fair chance to live their dreams.
That's awesome. Well done. I totally admire you for everything you're doing, and you're doing great things. I totally love the values you've set in your life and the way you're going about doing things and helping your community, and that's totally sweet. Last but not least, Howard Blend, you was the first person to buy his protein powder, right? What's it like? Because you've had it and I haven't, right? So giving a plug out to Howard, right? He said, make sure you end up on my protein, to give him a bit of a plug. What's his protein powder like, buddy?
Let me just say one thing. Howard is like the coolest dude. First off, his real name is Howard Blend.
Yeah, I know.
And he has a protein called Howard's Blend.
Yeah.
That you can't make that up. He's kind of like Edward Nygma, from Batman, Enigma the Riddler.
Right.
Like he has
Okay.
the perfect name. Like Howard really is a superhero. You've never seen Howard and Batman in the same room at the same time. I'm just gonna put that out there. So just check out his podcast too. Howard's Blunt. Howard's the man. So anyway, I'm gonna tell you, it's a vegan based protein. It was great. Uh, I bought several packs and I shipped them out to all my friends and I did giveaways. It's really good. The macros on it, if you know what macros are, macronutrients, basically fat, protein, carbs. Really, really high protein, virtually no fat, very low carb. So it's amazing for anybody that's trying to get in the gym. Like I need to get back in the gym. I mixed it. This is my little pro tip, and I did it on Instagram. You take this protein powder, get a blender, you put some vanilla, mix it with almond milk, a little cinnamon, a little nutmeg, and very little cloves. It tastes like what Puerto Ricans call coquito. It's amazing. Do that. If you want a little bit more sweetness, add a whole banana. It mixes very well. It goes down smooth, and I use it regularly. It's actually, and it's not because he's my friend. It's a really solid protein, and we're in talks on trying to help him expand his brand and that sort of thing, just from a conversation, and because he's so genuine. I would love to see him on shelves in GNC.
100%. He's a good friend of mine, and like I say, he's in our accountability group, and he's doing amazing things. And yeah, it's great to have an interest, together with him. Hussain Abdullah, thank you very much for coming on the show. I could have talked to you for another hour, another 2 hours. You're an amazing guy, and I love what you're about. Is there anything that you would like to say before you go?
Thank you again for having me. The feeling is mutual. I didn't even realize we were on for an hour. It just felt like a genuine conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing your your take on the book when you're done with it. I can tell you, as a fan of hip hop in the 80s and 90s, I bring it back. Like
Nice.
if you've never been to New York, I'm not sure. Have you ever been to New York?
I've never been to America.
Oh, okay. So we got first off, we gotta put that together. And then second of all, I believe in what other people have said. I give a very vivid description of what my life was like growing up in the first chapter or two. So hopefully you enjoy that. Hopefully you get some of the references. Juice, there's a reference to that definitely in the book.
Nice.
So I really appreciate you. I hope we could do this again. You have my information. Let's talk and put some other things together. I love to help you get that 9/11. Like it's my goal for you now.
Sweet. I look forward to speaking to you in the near future, and just keep on doing the amazing things that you're doing, because you've super inspired me tonight, and I know you'll have inspired the listeners, and I want to find out what freaking car he's got, guys. So let's all work together and find out what cars he's got, should I say.
That's what I need. Paparazzi. That's all I need. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
You take care, buddy. Thank you.
All right, Mark. Later.
There we go, mate. Easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great conversation. The hip hop stuff and all that. I like the originality in that. I appreciate that. A lot of people really are not versed in interviewing and that sort of thing. So I really didn't realize how long we were online.
I just like finding out about people, and that's why I say, just imagine that we're at a pub or a coffee shop, because when you walk in, I'm the sort of guy that I'll walk in the pub by myself. Right, I'll quite happily do that. Sit at the end of the bar and just chat to random people, and I want to find out about that person. And all right, I have got a few little notes down here because I wanted to ask you some questions. But a lot of the time, when you're getting to know people as a presenter, I want to get the best out that I can. So by me learning about you, right, then it comes out to my listeners easy, if that makes any sense. I'm finding that about you, and at the same time, what better way to do that than just sit and have a chat, rather and go whatever way it goes, rather than having shit all planned out and all the questions planned out. It's just all about learning about people and chatting with people, and that's the system that I do, and it works, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and I can see it growing and continuing to grow. And one thing I do, and you can see that with my work with Howard, I'm not gonna say, hey, all right, well, I did my interview with Mark. Let me just move on and never support what you do. Like, if there's anything I can do to help you promote, I do it organically as well. But you know, you have a great platform, and I wish you nothing but the best. Last question for you: What color? What color is the 911? Like, what color do you want?
Oh, Jesus, man. I don't really know. I think, well, which 911 am I buying here now? Do you know what I mean? I think, do you know what I mean? I think I'll have about half a dozen of them with half a dozen different colours, but either red, a Ferrari red, or there's a nice purple that I've seen, or a yellow. So yeah, that's what I'm not really fussed, to be honest with you. I wouldn't. That's a question I've never been asked. You know, it's just hasn't. I've never been asked that. Like, you know.
You got to start visualizing which one you
Yeah.
see yourself in, and then it'll happen. It'll come to fruition.
Yeah.
Even if it's not on your checklist anymore, even if you rent one or you lease one or whatever it is, or we have one and you come to America and we put you in it, I just want to make sure that I know what color it is that you want.
Yeah, a friend of mine, you see, he bought he wanted a transporter, a VW transporter, bus van thing, and he's got his own business. He's making shitloads of money, and he spent more money on this van than what the van's worth. And the other day, he's had it sprayed Ferrari yellow, right? And it's cost him like £8,000, £8,000 just in paint. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Wow.
you nuts, like, you know, but.
Wow. All right, so we'll figure out the Porsche situation, and we'll get it together. We'll definitely chat about it.
Sweet man. You take care
All
of
right,
yourself.
brother.
You know when it comes out, buddy. All right.
Thank you. Have a great night.
See you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.